Awesome. And we're live. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Thank you, Mark. Welcome to the show. Finally got you in.
Yeah, great to be here. We've been talking about this for ages, haven't we? And I'm just just delighted that we actually get to have a chat. I just have to remember that we are live and there's people actually watching us, and we're just not two old blokes down the pub having a natter about what's going on.
We've had so many chats. We could have probably recorded all of them. They've been great. It is different when you think people are watching it, but it's great. It's great fun. It's great fun. So for those that don't know you, you're Chief People Officer at William Hill. So it'd be really cool to hear your experience this year. How have you found the year?
Well,
I mean, going on.
Yeah, an awful lot going on. I guess for us as a business, we actually completed the sale of William Hill to Caesars Entertainment in April of this year. And then subsequently, Caesars sold on the non-US part of our business. And that sale is going through at the moment to a company called 888. So lots of change.
Right.
But, especially in this role, change is actually a great thing, because I think that's when kind of the people team or HR really comes to the fore.
Yeah. So at the start of 2020, had you just been bought by Caesars, or what was the scenario?
No, at the start of 2020, we were,
2021, sorry. 2021.
Yeah, at the start of 2021, the intention was we'd announced that they were going to buy us. And then in April, that sale actually completed. And then, but we knew at that point they were then going to do an on sale. So we have had all of that to deal with everything else that's been going on in the world. But as I say, that's kind of what makes work fun, right?
No, 100%. How did you find, what was the vibe of the people? You were going through obviously COVID, and then you had the sale and.
Yeah, and I think that, we've been very fortunate in as much as the sale to Caesars and then knowing it was an on sale, it's actually been very little disruption for us as a business. Obviously, we've had to talk about how we separate the rest of world business from the US. But then, I also think that we've treated our colleagues incredibly well. And the thing that we have done is, actually since COVID, we've just really ramped up communications. How we talk to people. I think we've become a lot more open, a lot more honest about what's going on. And I think we would have done that kind of almost regardless of any sale, or, because COVID definitely meant that we needed to do that with more people working from home.
True. And do you, obviously you guys had a mix, right? You have actual shops, retail shops, which I guess have opened and closed as the government has demanded. And then you also have office-based workers where the conversation's fully remote, hybrids, or in the office.
Yeah, exactly. So we've got over 1,400 retail shops. And funnily enough, I was talking to someone the other day in the team, because at this time last year, we were in this really weird situation where we had tiers. Do you remember? You're in tier 1 or tier or 3. And for us, depending which tier you were in, depended on whether the shop was closed or whether you had restricted capacity, whether social distancing, how people could stay there. So, and thankfully, right now, we're not back in that situation where we've got tiers. And obviously, after the initial lockdown, we've been able to reopen, which has obviously been great for us from a business perspective, and also for the community and so many people that actually enjoy going into our shops.
That's true.
But you've got that in terms of, our retail colleagues, but then you've got our office workers that are obviously all at home. And then we're actually trying to encourage them to come back into the office under our hybrid working policy.
Okay, so you guys are arriving at a hybrid where can people choose, or what's going to be?
Well, one of the things I'm super proud of is that actually during 2020, in the first lockdown, we kind of had the big conversation with people around, okay, so when we do return to the office, how would you like it to be? What would work for you? And what people told us was that they wanted a balance. They wanted a mix between being able to come to the office or being at home. So guess what? We launched our policy, which is called Balance. And what we say to people, certainly in the UK, is they only need to come into the office one day a week, which and some people choose to do more, and some people choose, to literally do the 1 day a week. We say that's over a month as well. So, people might not come in for a couple of weeks and then come in for several days. But it's been really well received. And we did that. We kind of told people we were going to do that before we started to return to offices. So I'm pretty pleased that we got that out there early.
Nice. And so what about the retail workers? So they've been happy to come back and...
Yes, and I'm sure we'll talk about this some more, but I guess what we've seen in retail is, so again, our retail population during lockdowns, we continued to pay people 100% of money. We didn't claim from the government coronavirus job retention scheme. So we claimed initially and then we repaid that money. So I think we treated our people really well, but guess what? They come back to work. The Great Resignation. There's so many roles out there, either in retail, hospitality, and then you're immediately facing an issue of, right, how do we keep people?
Yeah. It's funny. We spoke about the Great Resignation last week, you and I just can't help but feel it's a great resignation from companies that haven't treated their employees well. That don't listen to them, that don't ask them what they want to do, that aren't kind and things like that. I have seen a lot of good companies, in inverted commas, keep their staff, and they haven't had this problem of everyone leaving. So I think people don't forget how they were treated over the pandemic.
Yeah, I'd like to think that is true. When we look at our retention or our attrition rate, we are way below where we were in 2019, which was probably the last, in inverted commas, normal year. So I think the way that we've treated people has paid off. Having said that, we're not, naive to the fact that people get calls, they get tapped up, and there's a war for talent, right? Especially when you look in our tech area, everyone wants good tech people, and there's this big bounce back. It's a tough war to fight.
There are so many jobs. I mean, if you're talking about tech, you jump on a company website, a tech firm, and you go to the job openings, and it's all very similar. Everyone's looking for the same types of people, and it's hard. We've had, with Brexit, with COVID, less talent, I think, coming here to the UK. Although we have had the remote work stuff. So again, we can talk about this. I mean, more companies are open to where people are based. So it's been a real interesting mix.
Yeah, this isn't just a UK issue, right? We're a global company. We've got people in locations all across the world. Like, so for example, we've got a big development hub in Krakow, and that war for talent is there as well. So it's whether it be in Gibraltar or in Malta, and especially, of course, in the US. So it's the whole world has bounced back from a recruitment perspective.
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah, we have. So I've got team members in Berlin, Lithuania, and then we've got US as well, soon to be Canada. And it's been one of the busiest moments ever I've had in the recruitment industry, the last kind of 18 months, probably.
And this is it. It's great for recruiters.
Incredible.
Yeah, recruiters
well,
they're doing, everyone's having their best year ever. And whereas us, companies are desperately trying to hold on to people.
But then we help to attract, we help companies to attract people, the storytelling and, because the other thing, I mean, one big trend I've noticed is this, this good experience people want with companies, so in an interview process, they want a great experience. They want to be treated well, and that really helps to secure people. And I think that's been a lot of companies have cottoned on to that now. It's what can I offer you rather than why do you want to come and work here?
Yeah. And I think, and you know what? And that's a brilliant point, because one of the things that we're doing at the moment is really developing a strong EVP. I feel as though we've been a bit late to the party. We have some career pages, which talks a little bit about who we are. But actually what we find is that, the first thing that people do is they go onto your website. They want to know, are there people like me that work there? What's it like? What's the culture? What do they say? And career development as well, right, is a big thing. So yeah, we're doing some work to develop our EVP, but the recruitment we've found just needs to be so fast, because people are probably in the process for 2 or 3 different roles, and the winners will be those that interview those people quickly, get an offer out quickly, absolutely keep up the momentum. And we were probably a little bit slow to start with, probably like a lot of others, but we realized if we want to win in this game, we've got to be fast.
Yeah, if you know, if you see the person that you know is going to fit, don't hold back. There might not be other sweets in the sweet shop, so to speak. I mean, I had there's a friend of mine, chief marketing officer, and she was interviewing in 2 places, and one firm, I think she was about 8 interviews in 2.5 months. Another firm offered her within 2 weeks. And so she called up the other firm and was like, I'm really sorry, I'm going to withdraw from the interview process. And they were like, what are you doing? You've invested all of this time and I can't believe it. And, it says something. She was like, what are they going to be like to work with? If it takes them 2.5 months and counting to decide on a hire, it's going to be a nightmare.
Yeah.
When I actually get there.
Exactly. And people have got choice. So, but you're right. And we're in a fast world now, and it's, they'll be the winners.
Yeah. So that's definitely one trend for me. I've noticed this last year, which is 100% continuing next year.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that what you'll see continuing next year is actually as a result of if it is the great resignation, but companies doing more to keep people. And I touched on it very briefly before, but like around career advancement, how then will companies step up, promote people internally, take a chance on someone internally that perhaps ordinarily they wouldn't, or give them learning and development that ordinarily they wouldn't provide, because that's how you're going to keep people, show them that there's a future there and they don't need to go somewhere else. Definitely.
So many people hire for pedigree over potential, I find. They've worked at Microsoft, Amazon, that means they're going to be good at this job too. And obviously, just because they've done the job before doesn't mean they're necessarily going to be good at it. And if you can identify potential within your firm, it's amazing. It just sends a great message. You give someone a chance.
And better the devil you know. Because
that's true.
There is this thing about, when you interview someone, I mean, realistically, how much time do you spend with them, getting to know them and who they really are? If they work for you already, there are so many different kind of data points in terms of what that person can do. So if someone is 70% of the way there, take a chance on them. If they want it and they've got the hunger, then let's make it work.
Definitely. No, definitely. The other thing I've also
work though, by the way,
there's so many. I mean, we've had the great resignation. Maybe 2020 is the great rehire. I don't know.
I like that. Is that your prediction for 22?
That's hashtag great rehire. Yeah. Well, I think people cut too early in 2020. There was a lot of people were reacting so quick rather than just taking a breath. And just taking in all of the information and, just taking a bit of a moment. And so a lot of these companies are scrambling to rehire people. We work with one of the largest banks in the US, global banks. Won't mention who they are. They've just hired 250 internal talent acquisition folks this past year, which gives an indication of how much recruitment they've got in all of the other departments. And that same firm, you wouldn't believe, I think, in 2020. So I have seen a lot of that. It's been, fire fast. Let's scramble back, and then it's affecting them being able to attract talent because people talk. So if you can keep your staff. The other thing I've also been saying to people, which I'm interested to hear your view on, is don't just wait for your company to offer you the opportunities to learn and develop. Take ownership of your own career, your own development and things. I think for me that's super important.
Yeah, and there's also this thing, and we've launched one of our other kind of people strategy pillars. I talked about balance, but one of the other ones is build, and that is all around kind of career development, whether it be building within, so whether it be building people's capabilities, but to that point, if you think about, a huge proportion of learning is actually done on the job. And I think, and again, we're still in that place where people, unless they've been on a training course or you're telling them, right, this is learning now, they're not sure they're getting it. Whereas a huge proportion, I think they estimate 70% of learning is actually on the job. You know, 20% is being taught and 10% is, you know, where you're going to go in doing research. It's for people to kind of, recognize that, I think helps as well.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. What have you seen in the DE&I space this past year?
Oh, do you know what? It's almost like we rehearsed this, but because the third pillar of our people strategy is belong. So again, starting with a B, and belong is all about DE&I. And we started this kind of in earnest in 2020. And again, this goes back to EVP, you know, which is around what people more so than ever are looking to understand if you've got a diversity, equality and inclusion strategy, and are there people like me that works in that organization? I think what I've been a little bit disappointed about is that in 2020, on the back of, you know, the tragic George Floyd case, there was an awful lot of talk about DE&I in businesses. And then kind of since then, it's almost like they've moved on to, dare I say, to talk about hybrid a lot more, or other, and the DE&I think has slipped back on the agenda. I really hope that for good reasons, it will be back on the agenda in 2022. I mean, you know, we're doing loads of stuff in terms of how we attract people. We do a census annually to understand our people. We've seen a massive uptick in how many people have completed that confidential census. But it's kind of almost, you almost need to know what you have to know where you actually then need to target to improve.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's a fascinating, but everyone's going after the same thing.
Yeah, I kind of thought a few months ago, I was speaking to someone about this, that the remote work, hybrid work could be the great leveler for inclusion. You know, like give people the opportunity to work when they might not have been able to, because maybe they're looking after the family. I've noticed at the school day, so many more dads dropping off their kids now, and you know, it gives mums the opportunity to work if they were not able to because they had to go into the office. And so I've kind of thought that it could be a really good leveler. And then on the other side, there's such a huge divide with, you know, like tech. Like, do you have the technology to be able to work from home?
Yeah.
You know, so this is, I think it's a couple of really interesting topics there that, you know, that will come through this next year.
Yeah, I mean, and look, you know, and I do the school run a few days a week and I love it. It's great. There's a whole, you know, since COVID, there's a whole world out there I didn't know existed. So, which I'm ashamed to admit, but it's, but that's only gender, right? So, you know, there's this thing, what people would see as being stereotypical gender roles in terms of who's doing the school run. So yes, you'd like to think that hybrid working will open more doors in that respect, but it's more about, for me, when you think about the BAME community, for example, you know, what can you do as an organization for your community to actually encourage people from BAME backgrounds to have and give them opportunities? So we had a talent program, and it was all actually around where our talent on that program were focused on projects to support diverse companies, you know, that were supporting diverse groups, whether it be Pride, a Pride company, or whether it be people from BAME background, etc. And I think that as big organizations, we have a big responsibility to the outside world to help improve actually those opportunities for people that are less fortunate than ourselves.
Oh, for sure. Because you can make profit, but you can do good in society while you're doing it, you know, like good purpose, reaching into underprivileged communities. There's a lot of kids that, you know, that have any role models. They might want to be a doctor, but don't know what GCSEs to take, or they don't have the advice. And so I think, you know, for sure, big companies, and even companies like mine, you know, like we do recruitment, but we give people an opportunity to get a great job, to impact society, and all of those things. You know, I think making money and having purpose go hand in hand. Like, you know.
But I do think there's also this thing around, you don't want to be patronizing when you do it either. No. And it's just that, how do you get the balance right? You know, you don't want to make those generalizations that people from certain backgrounds just don't have, you know, the opportunities. So it's such a sensitive area. And well, one which I feel hugely passionate about and think that we can make a massive difference as an organization and to our communities that we work in.
Yeah, no, definitely. So the dialogue and the story, you know, like I've got 3 daughters, and I don't want them growing up thinking that it's going to be really difficult for them because they're female. I want them to think I can do anything, irrespective. And so, you know, for me, like the dialogue should be really positive. It's like you can, you know, hopefully be whoever you want to be, you know, and that's why I want to, hopefully if we get to that.
And I love that. And obviously you've got a very new daughter, haven't you?
How old is she? 4-week-old daughter. Yes, that's why I've got my bags under my eyes, and or maybe that's from the other 2 actually. But no, you know, I'm just it's funny because as I, you know, as you become a parent and you're like trying to teach your kids, and then I always have this thing in the back of my mind that you're always trying to unlearn what your parents teach you.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be, you know, I've been trying to unlearn what my dad taught me. So, and all of these topics, you know, I've been thinking about, and I just want, just whatever you are, wherever you're from, you want to have the opportunity, right? Now to start, you know, to compete in whatever you're trying to compete in. And clearly there's winners and losers, that's life. Yeah. But as long as you can get to that start line, then.
And look, and you know, the ideal scenario, we don't even have to, in the ideal scenario, we didn't even have to talk about this because everyone's on a level playing field. I mean, the reality is that's very unlikely to ever happen. But I think that's what we have to aspire to.
Yeah, definitely. Let's take a little look forward. Because I think, and as you've described, it's been a massive market shift this year. You know, how companies are attracting, retaining talent. What do you think is going to either continue into next year or something that we haven't quite thought of? Because I think one thing I've learned is who knows.
Yeah, exactly. And do you know what? It pains me to say it, but we need to talk about the COVID thing, right?
Let's talk about that. Yeah, absolutely.
And because I think that one thing is for sure is that we're going to go into 2022 and that's still going to be a thing. You know, and then you get into the whole, you know, should vaccines be mandated? You see some companies doing that. It's not something that we do, but you see other companies. And of course, it's important in a healthcare setting. I get that. Yeah. But there's that. And then the fear of various lockdowns, people perhaps not wanting to return to the office, not wanting to be on public transport. There's so many different dimensions. But yeah, looking forward, I think 2022, it's going to be more of the COVID, I'm afraid.
I thought you were going to be all positive.
Sorry, but no. There is obviously, you know, there are lots of good things that have come out of COVID, right?
No, you're right.
Hybrid working, communication, as you talked about, is giving opportunities to people, but there will be more of that as well. So
yeah, my COVID. Well, before I go into that, thanks everyone for the comments. So yeah, keep them coming. On COVID, I think if we'd have done this a month ago, I think I would have said, it's, you know, we're getting there now. And then suddenly my mum's flight got cancelled to South Africa because of this new variant. And you see some other European countries, because we're not in Europe, European countries locking down a bit more. It's interesting. I mean, I've got colleagues in the US. Some states are like completely open. Others are a little bit more cautious. So, yeah, globally, it's going to be interesting. I'm for sure it's going to be here for a long time.
Yeah, and it will, and this is when you kind of realm into, like, you know, personal views. We do need to learn to live with it, you know, in my opinion, and it's such a difficult line to walk. You know, this week I've had to make the decision around our Christmas parties in the UK. You know, had to make that decision to postpone those Christmas parties. We'll do them I know, and it feels like, you know, I feel like I should be wearing my, you know, Christmas Grinch outfit, but again, it's and only time will tell if that was the right thing to do or not. But there was clearly at the beginning of the week much more anxiety from people about being in large settings with lots of people.
Yeah, I mean, my view, Yeah, I mean, the mandating vaccine things is really interesting, and I did a poll on it on LinkedIn. Interestingly, I won't get up now, but the vast majority were pro mandating, which I thought was quite interesting. I'll share the results in a few days when the poll shuts. But anyway, there's a whole variety. I mean, and a lot of it's quite political and a very thorny subject to get into. But also the thing that I've had to come to appreciate is everyone's had a different experience. Some people are more anxious than others. Context's important, and things. I mean, for me, I'm certainly keen to keep business open. A lot of people have struggled. A lot of small businesses have struggled, and if we go back in this country to locking down a bit, it's going to have a big impact on people.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And again, you think about our shops and our shop colleagues, and then protecting our NHS and jobs, and we've just got to keep things going. And actually, it's been proved that the route to keeping things going is the vaccination. But then I guess I'm so liberal in my view, and in terms of you should not have to tell people that they need to do that. I suppose I've got this kind of people have that freedom of choice. So
it's a very tricky balance.
But in the US, You're seeing a lot of companies that are saying, right, no vaccine, no job.
Well, yeah, absolutely. That's it.
And I find that quite, hard to reconcile. Really, that's you cut off someone's employment. It's forcing people to do that. Again,
forcing someone to stick something in their arm. It's a very difficult subject, and I think for many they feel it's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
So it's a tough one. It's a tough one. I think here though you have to be vaccinated to work in the NHS in the UK.
You do.
I think.
Yeah.
But again, I don't know. I'm not an expert on employment law, but I'd be surprised if you had to make people have a vaccine. I mean, what is it like with retail
And we haven't, we certainly haven't said that people have to have a vaccine. It is very much personal choice, and there is no requirement on people to do that. As you say, it is in healthcare settings, there is a requirement. So it's, can't really say more than that. It's, you'd hope that people would do the right thing, but it is, I think I've just witnessed far too many heated debates between people around what is the right thing to do. I mean, with a healthcare setting, you can argue that it's necessary for their job to protect them and also to protect the people that they're looking after.
Yeah, it's also very, if we just step up a level a little bit to the inclusion and being authentic, which was a lot of people have been talking about this last year or two, even further. This really tests it, right? Like everyone says, bring your authentic self to work, right? But with topics like this, with topics like an election, it's kind of like bring your authentic self to work as long as you believe what I believe. And it's like, with the vaccine thing and it being so polarizing, then, how do you make sure you maintain a great culture and a high-performing team with people that strongly opposing views? I find that really interesting.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's a brilliant way of describing it. So what else do you think is going to happen in 2022? What's going to happen from a recruitment perspective?
So I think remote work, / hybrid, / in the office, whatever it is. But if you're lucky enough to have the choice, and so you're not working retail and NHS and stuff, then that's going to continue. And I'm seeing a variety of companies do different things. And I'm not sure where we'll end up on it, but I think it will certainly affect your ability to attract or retain staff.
And it's definitely a question. It's a question now. It will continue to be a question in terms of what's your hybrid working policy. I think that actually one of the challenges going into 2022 is that actually organizations will start to want to bring people back in more but people will kind of almost resist it. And I think that, what we saw was in the offices, we saw more people in the summer months. There was people coming in, and but then again, it's winter now, and actually it's starting to get quieter again. The last week, not surprisingly, has been quieter still because of news of a variant. So, but it makes you wonder where it will go.
I think the ones that will win will be the ones that actually speak to their employees and ask them, what would you like? How would you like to work? There's no one size fits all, and you want top talent staying. And maybe someone wants to be in 5 days a week. Maybe someone wants to be at home 5 days a week. And so I think as a leader or manager, once you arrive at it's about output, not time, then it's easier to have those conversations. And I think that will be a theme this year.
We did a huge program for all of our leaders to actually look at performance in a different way as a result of hybrid. And, and even thinking about like hybrid meetings, and you find, the people that are in the room versus those that are on the video conference. How do you make that inclusive? Lots of conversation about that's going on.
That's
around,
crazy. My other one is on the individual. I'm finding a lot of people, the number one thing people want when they're trying to join, when they think about joining a company or leaving, is culture. That's my number one thing that people I'm hearing feedback on. So you've got to think about that as an employer. The other thing is people are thinking much more about their own well-being and happiness than they ever have been. People have been like living to work for so long, and now they're thinking, actually, let me think of it more holistically. Life's short, you know? And so you've had a lot of burnout. A lot of people haven't taken time off. They're working longer, staring at a screen. So a lot of people I speak to are thinking much more about health, nutrition, good sleep, trying to leave their phone outside the bedroom, which I've not managed to do yet. So that like looking after yourself part, I think has been a real trend.
And it will continue. And I've been surprised how many of my friends have just gone, do you know what? I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to go and, I'm going to do something a bit more worthwhile, and, he's like, really? I'm not there yet, clearly. But you're right. There's this thing about burnout. And I've heard more about burnout from people working at home than when we first started working from home, all the time, I didn't think that was going to be a thing. You think of all the benefits it would give, but actually what happens is that all of those personal connections that you have with people when you're in the office, the water cooler chats, the person you might walk out to lunch, all of the conversations that you wouldn't have over a Zoom, that is so important for people's mental well-being, actually, just feeling connected to people. So the rate of burnout is incredible.
I mean, at the office, you get those Ricky Gervais, the office moments.
I hope I'm not.
You don't get that at home. But, with pre-COVID though, everyone was campaigning hard for the ability to work at home sometimes. And then when we were forced to, and it felt like, Mother Nature was finally saying, like, give me a break, go chill out at home. And then everyone had to work at home. And it wasn't the work from home we campaigned for. It was different. It was, I'm at home, I can't get out. And so, I think a lot of people have been burnt out. A lot of people were also afraid to say it because they saw their colleagues losing their jobs. They didn't want to be the next one out the door. A lot of people were super scared to say anything. And on the video, they're like, yeah, I'm fine. And then the video goes off and they're really fine. They're just...
And there's also this thing about almost... when you're working from home, you're expected to be on all the time. It's kind of, whereas actually when you were going into the office, I think there was more, the lines were drawn between when you were working and when you were not working. And now that is blurred, of course. And there was something you said earlier about almost like remote work and people going and working somewhere else, like in a different location. You're going to go and work in Spain for 4 weeks, for example, to be able to, and again, great idea. There's some real practicalities from a HR perspective, when it comes to corporate tax, personal tax, it's not always that easy. Lovely idea though, but I think we'll see and hear more of that in 2022.
Yeah, I agree with that. Many clients are saying to me, we don't mind where the role is based. which is on the one side great. You know, suddenly the talent pool is larger, more diverse, etc., and that's been a wonderful thing, I think. But those challenges, for sure, it's not so easy just to hire someone in a country you're not registered to employ people in, or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
What else is top of your list?
I think, definitely, the main things have got to be, so for us as a business is clearly we're going to be, going through an on sale, how we keep people, all the stuff we've spoken about already. Our people ambition is, we want to be an organization where people want to join and love to stay, and kind of a big emphasis on the love to stay. It's just how do we have people here for the long term? And just how we face off to the employment market is just got to be a big thing for us.
You've got to be on point now with that. Really do. People, if you just have to scroll through LinkedIn posts to see people moaning about interview time, no feedback, being ghosted, bad experience, no time to ask questions. The list is, list goes on and on.
And you're no one actually as an organizer, unless you've got a really good social media presence as well as a company. It's like, and again, it's kind of, you've got to tell people who you are. People have got to feel it. Because everyone, it's incredible. Like, your example of LinkedIn, you see companies doing great stuff. Oh, why don't we shout about that? Because then you don't want to shout about it because it will look like you're just trying to copy them. So, but
it's stuff like this. It's you jumping on a stream with me, which is going out to anyone can view it on the planet, and it's authentic. It's just our our views, and if someone wants to come work for you, they'll see this and they'll be like, okay, wow, this is Mark. I feel like I know Mark now.
I hadn't thought about
that. My one to leave you with, which I want to get your thoughts on. We talked about companies struggling to find talent, and many jobs are open for a long time because people can't find people. But then there's a lot of people unemployed, and we've never been very good at retraining people or training people to do the jobs that we need. I'd love to see companies do a better job at that moving forward.
Yeah, and do you know what? I think we do actually a really good job of that in retail. And we also do, take advantage of the apprenticeship scheme. But wouldn't it be, and again, that's going back to purpose and doing good in the world, isn't it? If you can, and we, with our internals first policy, which is how we've seen people moving from retail roles into office-based roles and into jobs that they never ever thought they would ever get to do, and that gives me a huge amount of satisfaction. And that goes back to how do you demonstrate career advancement for people. I love that idea. Again, doing good in the world. I love it.
Done. Let's end with that. What a beautiful place to end.
Brilliant.
Mark, thank you so much for coming in. We'll have to do one in during next year, so we can just look back and think and see if we've actually any of the predictions or trends we thought.
Who knows what it will be.
We'll probably be masks on because I don't know. We'll see. But thank you so much. Thank you everyone for watching, whether you've been watching live or after the event. Thank you very much, and stay safe and healthy.
Thank you.
See ya. Take care.